our CMS website. This website has written tutorials, guides, step-by-step resources as well available for your use. So definitely take advantage of that being available. What's nice about that is that it's available 24/7. You can always access the site. Additionally, if you have new users, you can grab um, new security agreements and things like that. And, this is a space both for it's a lecture format first and foremost. However, if you do have questions and if you do have anything that you want demonstrated explicitly within this call, definitely definitely go ahead and pop something in the chat. I have Duncan, Barry, Alexa with me today who are going to be answering questions in the chat while I'm speaking. And again, I'm getting over COVID, so my voice is going to be in and out. But yeah, don't be afraid to raise your hand and ask for something while we're meeting in this space today. Just scooching forward, this is the general agenda for what we're going to be covering today. The authenticated user view, that's how to log in, what that toolbar looks like, what those tools are, and what your role would potentially be. The content module, which is just creating a basic page, landing pages. We're going to talk about layouts today as well. So I definitely know that there is some excitement around the layouts. There is definitely a need for folks to definitely get in there and see what those guides look like. So we will talk about layouts extensively today. And then again, we're going to talk about the media library, file best practices and image best practices as well. We'll cover alternative text and we'll also provide in the chat links to OIT's accessibility guides and resources. They are the one-stop shop for all things accessibility. They have the most comprehensive guides out there for what you need to know to ensure that you are uploading things in an accessible manner. So if there is something on this page that you're not seeing that you want demonstrated today, take advantage of the chat, take advantage of being able to raise your hand and we can definitely cover it. Also a quick note, I have a hard stop at 11, so I can't stay after this training for additional assistance. However, you guys are familiar with partner support. Duncan, if you can include the partner support email in the chat, you can request one-on-one trainings. You can request any support needs as well. So if I can't stay late, you can always go through partner support to request a training to cover something else. Any questions about what we're going to be doing today? Nope. All right, pretty straightforward stuff so far. So first and foremost, let's cover how to access your websites. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'm going to switch gears here. And go ahead and give me a thumbs up when you can see my demo site. Are y'all able to see my screen? Thank you, Sharon. So this is our demo site. I like to pick on this site during my trainings. Anytime, whether you're a new user or you just need access to the site or it's been a while, you need to log back in, you're just going to navigate to your site and enter /user to the end of that URL pathway. This is going to automatically redirect you to the login page. Oopsies. And you're going to see something like this. So if you are a new user, it is definitely preferred that you choose the login with Google option. This is a single sign-on, which means you're basically borrowing your Gmail account to access the site. This negates the need for a separate username and password on the platform, which also means that you're going to have a more consistent experience logging into the platform. You can, of course, use a username and password if that is your preferred method. I would definitely just recommend dipping your toes into the SSO. I find that it is much more consistent in accessing. And when you are joining, please be sure to mute your microphone. Thank you. So I'm going to click this login with Google option. And because I'm already signed into a few accounts, it's just going to pull up a list, or it's just going to spit me out the other side. That's the beauty of the SSO, is that once you've done that login, you're just going to get pushed right in. Perfect. Any questions about accessing the authenticated view? Because this is what that view looks like. Mine has different system settings, so it's going to have this little dark mode activated. And apologies if you're just joining. I'm getting over COVID, so I'm a little slow today. This toolbar basically is saying, hey, I'm signed in. Here's all of the things I can do to manage my website. We're going to talk mostly about content today, and we may touch on structure as well if we have time. However, I'm just going to keep rolling, and we're going to talk about the anatomy of a web page. So if this is the first time you've seen a web page like this, with your toolbar sitting at the very top, you also have an alert field. So not all sites leverage this, but many do. This is just a banner that sits at the top of your website. It is notifying folks, hey, XYZ is going on if you happen to run a water district or anything like that. A common use case in this instance would be letting folks know that the water is going to be shut off for a few hours, right? Thank you, Duncan. So just circling back, if you need a contact partner support, that email was just put into the chat. Underneath this guy, we have Google Translate. This is set up to sit at the very top of the page. It is a standard drop-down choice selection. It has 70 plus languages. So that means anyone can simply just update the site with their needed language instantaneously. Perfect. Underneath our Google Translate, this is part of the header as well. This is the search. So each site has a built-in search. This is powered through Google's SEO. If you're noticing that things are indexing right, we need another pass at it, definitely reach out to partner support and we will go ahead and reindex things for you. This should be an automated process. It gets indexed every 24 hours. So the search may not be updated as soon as you make a brand new page, but after time it will be counted. Google will crawl the site and make sure to include it. And to our left, this is our logo space. This is the home button. If you do need this changed or updated at any point, you would submit a partner support ticket and we will replace this in here as well for you. Just a pro tip, I would definitely encourage you to have a transparent image file. And what I mean by that is you see how I can click and drag this and I just see the text and the C. I don't get any of the white background. This is that transparency. This is typically found in a PNG file type or an SVG vector file type. So definitely make sure that you have the right file types when you're submitting your logos, but we can change this at any point with you. Awesome. And underneath we have our main navigation. This is the hotbar. This is where all your most important links are going to go. Not too much to say about it. If you need to change the color of your main navigation, same deal as the logo. You'll submit a ticket to partner support and indicate which colors that you would like to request. This is found on our CMS page. I'm just going to go ahead and put that in the chat. And this is going to live specifically in the tips and tricks area and under color values. So you'll find that there are some instances on the site where you can change the color of things. However, it's just a list of words. It's not necessarily any visual representation of the colors. So this is the list you could choose from. And one quick note, you also cannot choose these 50% opacity colors for your menu. It will just be the original colors. So just keep that in your pocket when you are deciding. Underneath my main navigation, this is an additional optional content piece, just like your alert bar. This is the Jumbotron. This just allows you to carousel through several images to represent your site. It can be a landscape, it can be stock photos, as long as you have the permissions to use the particular image, definitely use it. However, with the Jumbotron, there are very specific image size specifications you should probably live in. And by probably, I mean you definitely should. These are going to be 2115, so that's 2115 pixels long. So that's the width. And then the height is going to be 450 pixels tall. So you can kind of think of it as like a bookmark kind of laying on its side. This ensures that your image is not going to get stretched and it's not going to get distorted in quality when you upload it. Um, Sometimes you have a really great image that you love a lot and you want it as a banner on your site, but maybe it's only 800 pixels in its width and maybe 400 pixels in its height, and it's going to get stretched and not look comfortable within the site. So if you do have any questions about stuff like that, you can also reach out to partner support. However, I just kind of want to throw this at y'all. This is a free tool from Adobe, so it is a trusted resource. This is just a free image resizer. This is just super easy if you are familiar with Photoshop and maybe the UI is too expansive, and you're not quite comfortable with leveraging it as a program. Um, this Adobe Express, this is just a free photo resizer tool. It's pretty nice. However, if you do need to do any further manipulation, like adding text or anything like that, you do have to pay for it. The resizer is the only free aspect, so just keep that in mind. But definitely, if you need to make adjustments to your images, leverage this tool. It's free. It's great. I use it all every day, pretty much. Go ahead and back out. And that's your Jumbotron. This is also optional, so if you don't have an image that fits in any of this and you don't need it, you can always skip it. And now we're kind of finishing up the header of our site and we're moving on to the actual guts. This is the page. And we also know that this is the beginning of my page because when you are signed into this authenticated view, you're going to see this edit, delete, revisions, clone button as well. This is just an easy way to navigate to editing the page without going through the back end of the site. So if you prefer to navigate to a page first and then edit from there, that is what it's set up to do. And your typical page is going to be set up in a rows and cards format. So a rows and cards format essentially means, or really not means, I like to think of it as like a bookshelf. And I'll zoom in a little bit so we can kind of see what I'm talking about. Where at the very top right here under this yellow bar, we can say, this is the frame of my shelf. And inside of my frame, depending on how many books I have, I need to decide how many shelves do I need on my bookshelf, right? So I can see here that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and looks like 5 shelves on my bookshelf. We also kind of adjusted the row color so we can definitely see these breaks as well, but there will be gaps in space in between rows as well. So these are just stacking on top of each other. And then once I've decided how many shelves I need, I can finally put my books on my bookshelf. So in this instance, we have 3 books on this top shelf here. 1, which is just this image. 2, which is this basic card, which is just a text editor. And then 3, which is this embedded map feature. And then underneath it, I have 2 books again. 1, 2, 1, 2. This one's a little trickier, but there's 1, 2, 3 books on this bookshelf. And the main way I can tell is that every book is going to have space between the other, right? We're going to have these breaks in content. This white space here, this space here, and these spaces here. Any questions about rows and cards as a concept? Nope. Okay. So we're going to keep pushing along. Underneath all of our bookshelves, we now have our footer. You're going to have 2 footers on every site. One is custom. You can change it. You can remove it. You can do whatever you need to that footer to display the information that you need it to display. This is this lighter gray box right here. right? And underneath it, this is the universal or global footer. It's interchangeable. You may see us reference it using either of those names. This is static legislated content. When this needs to be updated, you won't update it. We will do that for you because you don't have access to this particular footer. And the main reason for that is deleting this footer could absolutely break your site in a way that is recoverable for sure, but just so you know that this footer, this universal global footer, is not something to delete. I would also stipulate that in the same realm of things you don't want to delete, when we are looking at our homepage, there is the option to delete the homepage. I would not do that. I would additionally also not clone the home page and then decide from there what to delete. This is like late game Jenga, and there is a block that looks really tempting, but pulling it out is going to take the whole tower down with it. So when it comes to your landing page, what you would want to do is if you want a complete overhaul, you want to start from scratch, you can edit the landing page and then just delete the rows that exist on that page and start from scratch there. That would be my recommendation. Just want to introduce that to the training as an additional touch point. I found it is definitely starting to become relevant. So if you have any questions about what to delete, what not to delete, the main two things always is your global footer. This is a lot harder to remove, happens once in a blue moon, and your homepage. And you won't need to ask, well, what does it look like when I delete these things? You will know instantly once they're gone. You will receive 403 errors, 502 errors. You'll have a lot of connection issues on your site. That's a really good indicator that maybe your homepage has gone missing when it is not intended to have gone missing. So, excuse me. I apologize. I am getting over being sick. Any questions about general site anatomy? Any questions about things being deleted in particular? And again, feel free to utilize the chat. So even if you don't want to speak, you would prefer to have something in there. I would say the cloning issues that we are seeing are in landing pages, and the home page is a landing page. My recommendation not to clone the home page specifically comes from having two identical home pages that you are not sure of which one is the appropriate one to delete. Um, these are basic pages. I would recommend submitting a ticket to partner support so that we can investigate that issue because we are aware of cloning issues on the landing pages that we are investigating. Basic pages are definitely going to be a new thing. Okay, then go ahead and pop the DGS number into the chat and I will review it later today. Um, But in general, I will say the landing page, your home page, is the trickiest thing to clone, is the easiest thing to delete the original, and deleting the original causes issues. And one more thing on that is that we can revert the site back. However, if you've deleted that content and then you've continued to do work and then noticed later on, you will lose all of that work because it's not just reverting one page, we're reverting the entire site back at least 24 hours prior to deletion of that content. So that's why it's important that you don't delete it, is that you could lose a lot of work that we won't be able to recover for you or be able to reestablish for you. So just keep that in mind. And cloning definitely has its quirks. So we need to start talking about content. Let's go ahead and get into our content module. So whenever I'm starting a new project, typically the first thing I have people do is go into their content module and find their media library. When I click on my media library, it's going to show me all of the documents and images that, and be sure when you're joining that you're muting your microphone. Um, In your media library, this is where all of your documents and images are going to live. I have people do this first. It gets them used to adding stuff to the site. And additionally, you'll find that when you are adding images or documents to any point in the page, you are referencing nodes. And those nodes are created from uploading things to your media library. What's the difference between a node and a URL pathway? Because you're going to hear me talk about nodes a lot, so definitely want to get this in your brain. Nodes are a 4 to 6 digit numerical identifier for a piece of content. This means that you may see up here this thing written now, or for example, if I were to go to cannoli, this demo.colorado.gov/media/2441, this is a URL pathway. So if we happen to change the name of a page or anything like that, this pathway would change, and that original link where that pathway is linked is going to break. However, if we are linking with these numbers instead, these nodes, you can do anything you want to that original piece of content except for deleting it. And that link, that relationship will still exist. That's why it's important that we have our files and we have our images uploaded in our media library as nodes. While the system is not a content management system by any, or not sorry, I apologize, a file management system by any means, it is still helpful to keep track of what's on the site and additionally have that numerical identifier to prevent links from breaking in the future. So just scooching back, we're going to click on my Add Media button. We're going to select Document, and we are just going to give it a name. Best practices is that when we are adding a document, I want to make sure that the name I'm giving it here is going to match the file name of the object that I'm uploading. So for example, I'm going to name this test because I'm going to use my test PDF. In the system, if you do have duplicate documents in the system, demo is going to have this test PDF crawling all over it. It's going to automatically rename the PDF so it doesn't have a duplicate file issue, so it doesn't create any discourse amongst that. And when I click on that link, it's going to preview the file for me. So this way I can always look at what I'm uploading before I hit that save button. I can review my work before I save. It's like previewing a page before we actually publish it. And there's also additional fields. You can call it good after this. This description is just adding a label to the file link. This description helps with search engine optimization. So going back to how it's powered through Google, Google loves keywords. So if you happen to have a document that maybe is super technical and maybe has some layman's language in it, I would include stuff like that in here, things to help make a document more accessible for the public to find, because not everyone's going to know the acronym, not everyone's going to know the full thing. But if you happen to know that there is a nickname for something, you can pop it in here and it will make the document searchable on another level. Related tags are just an internal sorting tool that you can use. So this is a lot like how hashtags used to work on like Instagram and stuff like that, where we could just write test. I don't need a comma or a hashtag to get it to work. I just need the word. And since I've already added it before, it already exists. And here is a 6-digit node right there. So nodes are presented as those numbers within parentheses. So anytime you see this, you know you're working with a node. So go ahead, save my document. And any questions about the documents? Hold on, I lost it. Notes are automatically, they are automatically assigned, so you do not need to manually assign notes at any point. It is automatically done by the system. This is also done so that you're not getting duplicate notes, so it's random. Hopefully that helps. And once a node is assigned, can you search by that node to populate a page, or do you need? You can search by node or page name within the content library. So you can use either. So you don't necessarily need to know the node for everything. The node is mostly just so it has this unique number that it can always reference the content regardless if you change the bones of the content. Okay, perfect. But yeah, you can search by node if you happen to remember it, but I don't expect you to remember a 5-digit node for all 100 plus pages on y'all's sites. That would be very impressive if you did, though. So we're going to talk about adding images next. And images, when I click on this option, um, excuse me, when I click on this option, I think we're all in agreement that this looks identical to uploading documents. However, oh, and I'm sorry, my brain, again, getting over being sick. One thing to note with your PDFs. So when you're uploading documents, they should be PDFs. This means that this document is going to be accessible in a browser. You don't need Microsoft Office to open it, and you don't need extended permissions even from Google to open it either. PDFs allow you to download the document, they allow you to zoom in and zoom out, and they play the nicest with browser extension screen readers, which people may need to leverage if they happen to not be able to afford those fancy screen reader programs. So when you are uploading documents, if they are Word documents, convert them. And when you're converting them, Acrobat is on most computers for free. Acrobat has an accessibility tool where it can notice if there's infographics or images or things within your PDF that may have accessibility concerns that need to be addressed. If it has an infographic, you have to either assign it as a decorative image or you have to give alternative text to it. Logos can be assigned as decorative images as well. Just be sure that when you have and are uploading PDFs, that if they have those things, you're scanning for them. This is just something that can easily trip you up with accessibility stuff. So keep that in your pocket, that if these things have images in them, you do have to assign alternative text, and Acrobat is free and it can help you with that as well. So just that's my little statement on PDFs. But going into images, again, I'm going to name this Cannoli because I use Cannoli for all of my trainings. You guys have probably seen them a few times by now. But unlike PDFs, when I upload this guy in here, now I have an additional field. This is that alternative text field. I would say it depends on the image, and Guadalupe just asked a great question. If you assign something as a decorative image that's considered accessible, doesn't need alt text, just confirming, it's a little more complicated than that. I would say decorative image is good for logos, like stuff that doesn't necessarily convey information, like something that's decorative, right? If it happens to have text in it, if it happens to have information, statistics, things like that, I would write alternative text for it, and I would not just skip to decorative image. That's where I think you could potentially be in trouble. Duncan, if you can do me a favor and go to OIT's website and grab. Exactly. If it does not convey any information, you're good. Can you grab the OIT website's alternative text guides and pop those in the chat? In fact, if you can grab as much of the OIT accessibility stuff and pop it in there, these are really, really great resources to review for things like that. But I would generally save decorative images for decorative stuff. Like if you have fancy logo or I can't think of it, but some documents have like fancy lettering and stuff like that. But moving on, when we are writing alternative text, context is important. So in this instance, I know Cannoli is part of an adoption program, so if I knew his breed, I would be sure to include that breed in my alternative text. However, I'm pretty sure that he is just a mix. So I'm going to describe him to the best of my ability. I know that this is a large black dog. Excuse me. curly hair sitting. So the action, the animal, general size, because it's important if we're adopting cannoli, if we don't describe the size of him and we get there and we think he's a toy poodle and he most certainly is not, that's where that you could run into an issue like that. You can also say that this is a portrait. So maybe we need to go that extra mile as well and describe this because this is not an action shot. This is not really a candid photo. Where if we had a picture of cannoli running through the field, maybe the alternative text for that would look a little different. Maybe it would be less about presenting cannoli as an adoptable dog, but more just an image. Yes, and Krista put in a good point. Recommendation for decorative images is anything that needs more than a 3-second view should have alternative text. So exactly. That's a good rule of thumb. Thank you. Um, Additionally, with alternative text, if you have a group photo with 50 plus people, you are also not expected to describe every single person within that photo, right? Um, that OIT guide is really good at covering stuff like that. So be sure to review that if you do have any questions. Um, and in my description field, this is just like documents. This helps the SEO find stuff. And then this guy, I'm going to add test to. That note's going to pop up indicating that I've assigned this guy. And I'm going to hit save on my image. And that's just quick rundown of the media library. Everything just kind of lives in here. For the sake of time, I am going to start jumping into content. And there's lots of different content types. So this is your content library. When you click this add content button and you see this list of options, this is everything that you can expect to find in the content library once you've completed setting it up. So that's alerts, articles, basic pages, contacts, events, jumbo slides, landing pages, layouts. So we're not obviously going to have time to cover everything today. If there's anything in specifically you want to see, definitely shout. Um, However, we're just going to get started with basic pages. You will find that most pages on your site are going to be basic pages. I go ahead and give this my test page. And this title that we're giving it is going to be assigned in the URL. So this is going to become a part of that pathway. So this is where that nodes come into play, where if I were to change the title, my pathway would change. So if I happen to link this page somewhere else and that pathway changes, that's a broken link on your site. That's definitely an accessibility concern and user concern. So another use case in which you would like to use nodes when linking things. And inside of every page, you really get two options on how you want to build it. You can build everything within this WYSIWYG editor right here. WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get. All of these buttons do something, and you can leverage them to build out an entire page. This particular method of page building is excellent if you just have a page that has paragraphs of text, maybe a link to something and not much else. There's not really a need to organize the content using rows and cards, right? We don't necessarily need a bookshelf if we only have one book, right? That's something we can kind of keep on our nightstand. I'm gonna borrow some Latin so we can look at some of these buttons. Apologies, my internet is slow today. I'm just gonna steal this guy, and this is going to be my next important soapbox moment. You'll see that this is an external site. I'm copying and pasting from an external site. This means that when I paste in here, so I also have keyboard commands and shortcuts if you'd like a list of those. So I'm copying using Control C. And then when I'm pasting it, because it's an external source, I am taking care to strip the formatting. So this is Control plus Shift plus V, and that strips the formatting. Compare this to just pasting it without stripping anything. It may be subtle, but it is different. The font size is larger, the font is different, and the color is even different. When I click on my source code, there's a big difference here. This is what plain text looks like. So it's just plain text within these paragraph break. So these P's within the carets are indications of a new paragraph. Underneath, we can see how I've pasted it from an external source. We can see there's background colors, there's styles, there's widths, there's inline stuff. This is where you can get tripped up with accessibility. Even if you're copying and pasting from another site on the .colorado.gov platform, it's going to take the end result of the text, so what is presented to the public, and pasting it in here. So it's going to double dip on styling, and that's where you can kind of run into that issue. Be careful when you're pasting stuff so that you don't run into that. That is definitely one of the easiest ways you can get tripped up on accessibility. Those little flags like that can happen. So make sure you're checking your source that your removal of styling is done correctly. And I'm gonna just pop that in the chat. So when you're pasting, that is Control plus Shift plus V, and that's to paste without formatting. So real quick, we're going to talk about linking stuff in the text editor. We're going to take a little mosey through the rows and cards and then dedicate the rest of the time to layouts. So we're coming up on time, and I've mentioned in the beginning, I have a hard stop at 11. I cannot stay, but if you do have questions and Duncan or Barry can stay and answer questions, that would be super helpful. However, let's keep it rolling. So whenever, let's say I want to take my test document that I uploaded and I want this string of text to be clickable, and when people click on it, it accesses that test document. And I'll even zoom in because I know these icons are teeny tiny. So I am highlighting my piece of text, I'm clicking this chain link option, and I'm simply searching for the document. So you can see when I'm searching stuff, it's searching all of my content and my media. So I'm seeing all these test items in here as well. So there are two methods to linking the document. There is one that is greatly preferred, and that is linking as a file type. So you can see how these are separated by file and by media. We want to make sure that we're uploading it as the file. So I'm finding my test document here, and we can see here that I just have my // sites demos files documents test.pdf. This is the pathway. So this means that even if I change the URL of my site, maybe we change to instead of demo, we call it demonstration.colorado.gov. This link would still continue to work even if the URL gets changed. That's why it's set up like this. And you also want to make sure anything that you're linking under this advanced dropdown, you're selecting open a new window. This keeps users spot on the site before they navigate it away to review the document, and it's easy for them to just tab back into the page that they were on. So it's accessible for people who majorly use the keyboard. Yes, Krista?
Hi, Sunny. I'm glad you're feeling better. Can you please repeat what you just said? I've never seen that before. And my brain went, wait, what? I don't understand why or what you just did. And and if I need to do this offline, I'm happy to do it, but I'd love to learn more about that little thing you just did.
Linking the document?
No, you hit something. You said for
Oh,
accessibility. Yeah, that piece. Yeah, this right
advanced?
here.
This
Yeah.
just lets you open in a new window. I would highly encourage, I know if you have a ton of documents, it would be kind of a pain, but you just have to click on the link, click this pencil icon, and mine automatically drops down, but you'll click this advance and then open a new window. This, like I said before, this keeps users spot on the site. So this is essentially saying, I'm navigating away for a second to review this document, but I'm going to be right back. And maybe I'm halfway through the page or close to the end, and I don't want to, try and find my spot again. This will just take you right to the document, and I'll even demonstrate. So let's hit save, and let's look at the front end. And you'll also notice that there's a visual indicator when this switch is flipped. It's this little square with the arrow pointing out. So if you've seen this on your site, that means that those links have probably been set up like that. And clicking on that, it just takes me right to my document, and I haven't lost my page on the original spot I was in.
Oh, because my understanding
Mm-hmm.
was I work for I'm in CDPHE, that we
Yep.
were not to externally link to anything, but that's for accessibility, but that is
Yeah.
very cool. That's awesome.
And I think what they mean by external is linking sites that are not in your particular site, like maybe just like a different site. This maybe the wording is a little strange. I don't love that it says window. It's a new tab in my perspective. So yeah, this is essentially this is still an internal link on the site. We're just telling it to open in a new tab instead of opening in the same window that you're currently in.
That is awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no worries. Always good to know little things like that. And from Guadalupe, only external links need to be opened in a new window, links to internal pages. So exactly, that's where I don't like the wording of this particular slider. You can do this for external, internal, any links that you're setting up. Um, it just means it's going to open in a new tab. When people click on it, it's not going to replace this page. It's going to open a new page for them to look at. And that applies to internal links, so links native to your site, or external links, maybe you're linking to Facebook or a resource site of some kind, or documents as well. Yeah, that's why I don't love the wording. It's any link. The link just opens in a new tab, is what it does. Does that answer your question, Guadalupe? I see a hand. Oh, let me. Can you unmute and try again, Guadalupe?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, awesome. Hey, so I just wanted to clarify because, like, on the SBDC site, for example, we
Mm-hmm.
do have links that go and take you off the site itself, like into some of our centers. But there are some links within the pages in themselves that, for example, from the home page will will take you to the like locations page that are still within the same SBDC site. So I just wanted to confirm what the best practice was there. Was in those cases, if I'm redirecting to just another page on the current website structure, I don't need to open that at a new page. Like that's, and I don't need to click on that. Is that correct? It's only when it's leaving my
No,
website?
like I just mentioned, that's why I don't like the wording of it. It is any link type. So it's not reserved for external sources, so sites not the .colorado.gov. It's for any link, any link. So that slider is available for any link. You should be using it.
Okay. So if I'm redirecting from my home page to my
Yes.
locations page,
Yes.
again, all on the same thing, that locations page should open on a new window.
Yeah, if you have that slider turned on, if the link is set up in the WYSIWYG editor or any basic page editor, that's best practice.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it wouldn't do it if it were, so if something was linked in your main navigation, for example, that's not a setting that you can leverage. If it's linked within these text spaces, that's where you should do it, for multiple reasons. Keeps people on their original page. You get the analytics and statistics for that. Additionally, it has a visual indicator that you're leaving the page. That's the most important part, is that this icon shows up, and this icon is communicating to users that you are going to leave the page that you are on, or it's going to take you away to a new page, right? While saving your spot still. That's really the most important part, is that it adds an additional visual indicator to the link that this is a link.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep, so I know it may not be fun, but definitely it's easy. Just edit the page you're looking at, click on that link, click on that pencil, and it's the only option in advanced. So you can't even get lost. It's the only thing you can do in there. And you're just gonna slide this so it's green. And hit save. Okay. Any other questions about links? We're definitely creeping up on time. Okay, we're gonna keep pushing. Um, Also within here, just like documents, you can add images into this space. So there's one option that you should be using, and that's this music note insert media option. This is going to pull from your media library. This is why I say it's important that whenever you are planning to upload new images, new documents to a page, that you do that first and then go and edit your page. Because now all I need to do is select cannoli, and the system is also smart enough to thumbnail the image for me. So it can tell when an image is huge and squish it down to fit in that space. And then you can also orient the image however you like. There's wrap text options, there's break text options, and you can also edit the alternative text from here. So if you get feedback that alternative text on a particular image is not satisfactory, you can get back in there, you can update it really easily. That's why this is the best method. It's going to take care of you. For the sake of time, let's just look at rows and cards. So there's a few different rows and card type options. There's equal columns and unequal columns. Um, Again, just for the sake of time, so that we can look at layouts right after this. If you need further training, definitely reach out to partner support and we'll get something set up. Equal columns just means that no matter how many books I put on my bookshelf, my books are going to be the exact same size. So if I were to, for example, look at my homepage, I have two equal columns sitting right next to each other. However, it may not be obvious at first. This is 3 books on a bookshelf. They are equally as big as each other. One may be taller because it has text in there. However, that width is the same. This is what it looks like with only 2 books on my shelf. They're going to be split in half. So this is thirds and halves. If I were to add a 4th book on my bookshelf, it's going to be split into fourths, right? So the more books I'm adding to my shelf, because they need to share the same amount of space, the more I keep adding, the smaller my books are going to get, and that may not have your content looking super consistent. This is really good when you have 3 of the same card type on your row. So these are 3 icon cards, right? And these look nice. And an image next to a basic card. This size is going to inform the image size as well. So if an image can't stretch to the text, you may find it happens here where we have more text than we have image, and that's where, equal columns may not be that consistent. However, you can choose uneven columns. This lets you specify how much space each book can take up in our bookshelf. And just for your awareness, it's in fractions. So 1/4, 1/2, 1/4, 1/6, 2/3, 1/6, just rearranged, right? In different orders. So this is the best, especially if you have content that's planned out that you're going to be using. Um, Excuse me. Sorry. Um, yes. So this requires a little bit more foresight than equal columns cards do. You have to plan for it, and you can only have 3 or 2 books on your bookshelf at any point when leveraging this particular column style. Um, so just keep that in mind, is that you can split them up in certain ways. So you can tackle in 2 different ways. You would need to rebuild it. So that's another quirk. So Guadalupe has a great question. If you happen to have built a 3 column row and you had to delete one of them, the system would not adjust and fill the space. That's why it's so particular, and that's why it's a little bit more consistent, is that that space is still going to be held for that piece of content. You would have to replace it with something. So if you built a 3 card row, kind of realize that maybe you didn't need 3 cards on this row, you would prefer to have 2, you would have to start over and just start a new row. And that's kind of one of the intricacies with rows and cards. So a better choice is technically layouts. Layouts allows you to move stuff around wherever you want, no matter what, right? And that's why we want people to start kind of dipping their toes in the layouts. I know that we're still gathering feedback on layouts. We know that we are still perfecting it and improving upon it. However, when we get that feedback and we can apply it to the actual um, solution, then we have a consistent, better choice. So let's just look at layouts with the time that we have left. So you're going to find them in content, in add content. You're going to select layouts, and we got to give it a title. This is just like page names where this will become the name of, this will become the URL pathway. Featured image allows you to put a banner image on to the page. And this body text is a lot like our basic page where we could add text in here, and this could be the majority of our page if we wanted it to be. However, we're not going to touch any of this because we just want to look at the sections and blocks. So I'm going to hit save on this guy. And so next step is not to select edit again. You want to select layout. So maybe a little confusing, but we want to select layout to actually get in here and build out the layout. And here's what it looks like. I like to delete this templated section just so I can start from scratch. And sections we can think of as rows. It's a little different, but in our sections we can say, I want 2 columns, 3 columns, 4 columns, right? So I can say that I want 3. And they're going to automatically be split equally. Not currently at the moment, there is the ability to, oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. You should also be able to adjust. So if you need uneven columns, you can do that too. So I can add my section. And then I can begin adding blocks. So these are the books on our bookshelf, right? So we've added our row. Now we just need to add our cards or blocks. So they're very similar. They may look super different, but they're very similar to one another. A simple block. This looks awfully familiar, right? We just stared at this, huh? So I am popping in, checking my source. Yep. Okay, perfect. And so maybe our first block is just this piece of text. Excuse me. Save. Oh, have to give it a title. I must have something else. Uh, we're gonna let the machine name that. Please. Thank you. Okay. So we have our title in here, and you can see now I can drag this around anywhere, right? So very easy. I can even add an additional section. So that means we're adding another row to our page. And we can say, I don't need this in this section anymore. I would prefer it to be below. So we know that this is definitely something that people have wanted in rows and cards, is the ability to transfer stuff between rows. However, like Guadalupe points out, is that we can't really do that, right? So that's where layouts is kind of a better solution, is that you're able to customize these things a lot more and be able to kind of migrate stuff in between sections that you couldn't in between rows prior. Additionally, there's some other content blocks we can add here. So when I'm clicking my add block, I can select content block instead of simple block. And content block is going to ask me a basic block, which is just another text editor, icon block, which is those big button links, media block, just grabbing from our media library and popping in an image, open embed, that is just a basic text box that lets you input iframes. So that's interactive external content onto the site. Simple Maps, Google Maps, you can pop a pin on your site. Slider is like a mini Jumbotron, and Views Reference, this is where you would upload your articles, events, stuff like that, a calendar. We are popping up on time. I know we did not cover as much today as we normally do. Again, I apologize. I'm getting over COVID and it has been kind of hard. So, we have a couple of minutes. Do we have any questions about the things that I've covered so far? Guadalupe?
Okay. Hey, so question. So, um, can you, so I don't believe that the current SBDC site was built in a layout form. I think,
No, it was not. It was definitely rows and cards.
I
I
was
was
gonna say,
there when it was built.
yeah, yeah. So can I add layouts on top of the current configuration and then just start to migrate over to layout as I start adding, deleting sections? Or do they have to exist separately from the way that it's currently structured?
They will exist separately. So you couldn't stack a layout on top of rows and cards, if that makes sense. However, I would say that on the front end of the site, they look nearly identical, right? So you could start to leverage layouts instead, just from today onwards, if you decided to do that. And there wouldn't be much difference between a site built with rows and cards and a site built with layouts, right? However, you couldn't mix them together into one page. You'd have to choose whether to have a basic page or whether to have a layout.
Okay. Okay. And then also question. So I've got a section on the site where I've got an image and then below it
Mm-hmm.
is a content block, or it looks like. But when I go into it, it's all like part of like body copy in essence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is there a way, if there isn't a way to actually make it so that they stand as two different sections, is there, versus just having it be one like whole body block with the image and the content on it?
And when you say body block, it's like we were looking at before, where things were made primarily in that basic text
Yes.
editor. Yeah.
Yes.
So not really. You could, if there's not a row, so you could add a row underneath it and then input the image in there instead if you choose. However, there's not really a great way to separate it after the fact. And I've seen the SBDC site. I know what you're working with, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I know
so
exactly.
so when I'm thinking of it, I would say that when it comes to that particular site and that particular layout, I would
Uh,
probably leave it as is, and maybe we can say moving forward, we're doing things a little bit differently. Maybe we're leveraging rows and cards more. We're not relying so much on the basic editor, and maybe we're starting to play with layouts too. But when it comes to the SBDC site, things are set up in a very particular way. And I know you know Anna and stuff like that. So I would say that might even be like a group meeting to kind of go in and see how much flexibility do we have to kind of overhaul certain aspects of the site, right?
okay, got it. All right, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. I know I'm at my blocker. Is there anything else anyone else needs addressing? Nope. Okay. We'll call it there. Again, I apologize. I know I was quiet and not feeling amazing. Um, 2 weeks out from now, we'll be a lot more comprehensive. We'll cover more. So I do appreciate y'all stopping in today. I gotta go to my 11 o'clock. The partner support chat is in the link. And again, for those who stayed, at the very top of the chat, we have a survey link. Please fill that out. Give us some feedback. It can be about trainings, it can be about the platform in and of itself. We want to know more from y'all, so definitely don't be afraid to hit us up and fill out that particular survey. But have a great morning, everybody. Thank you for your patience with me today, and I will see you in 2 weeks.
Feel better, Sunny. Thank
Thank,
you.
thank you, Krista. All right, I'll see y'all later.